Hello and welcome back. I am Katrina and we're inside the shed on my allotment today. It's the middle of December. Christmas is just around the corner, so it's time for the Christmas Q&A. First, I need a cup of tea because I'm freezing cold, but it's taking ages to boil because it's so cold. Come on! Brought my little pastry to have. I'm a little obsessed with these. Basically like an egg custard, but it's called the pastel de natal or something. I think they're Portuguese, but Lidl sell them in their bakery. Thank you for submitting all of your questions via YouTube and on Instagram as well. We've got loads of different topics to cover, including gardening and my allotment, me, my interests, and also some Christmas questions and some really random ones thrown in there as well. So we're going to get through as many as we can in the next half an hour or so. So first of all, what is an allotment? And I get asked this question a hell of a lot, and I appreciate that if you're outside of the UK, and especially if you're outside of Europe, you might not really know what one is. So basically it's a plot of land that you rent generally from the local council as part of a big group of allotments. So we've got lots of neighbours, there's usually a really nice allotment community, everybody helps each other out by swapping seeds or produce, and they've been around since about the 1850s. By 1850, allotments were recognised as areas of land provided by individuals or public bodies as acts of charity on which the labouring poor might supplement their low income by cultivating fruits and vegetables or carrying out stock keeping in their spare time. So my allotment site is at St Anne's Allotments in Nottingham. It's only a stone's throw away from the city centre, which is about half a mile away. It's grade 2 listed. It's the biggest and the oldest in Europe. So there's about 650 plots, which is huge. Most allotment sites generally have between, 30 and 80 maybe. They all really do vary in size though, and even the plot sizes can vary. Mine's quite an average size. If you go more to somewhere in the city like London, you'll probably have half a plot and you'll have a tiny little strip because space is scarce and the demand is very high. And the amount that you'll pay for your allotment will vary as well. Some allotment sites are privately owned and they all have their own set of rules. So some allotment sites don't allow you to even have sheds, greenhouses or polytunnels, and this allotment site here is so historic, and it says in my notes that although the size has changed slightly over time, the gardens are still in their original 1830s layout, and there are 670 individual gardens on 3 connected sites: Hunger Hill Gardens, Stone Pit Coppice Gardens and Gorsley Close Gardens. And this site covers 75 acres. So when you look down past my shed over that way, you can actually see the Nottingham city centre. It's really, really close. And Nottingham in the past was known for its lace making. There's a lace market near the centre of town where lots of ladies would be making lace, so that was their main sort of export. There's a lot of history and stories from St Anne's Allotments, and I'd love to do some more videos on that next year. Went on a great tour a few years ago, and there's lots of crime that took place, and yeah, just lots of brilliant stories. So hopefully that helps clear up what an allotment is. So basically we rent this piece of land that we're allowed to use for growing fruit and veg and keeping livestock such as chickens. We pay our rent annually. The water is included in mine. Some don't even have taps, so you'd have to save rainwater. Finally, do you like what I've done with my box Christmas tree? Right, let's go through some questions. First question: what first inspired you to take up horticulture? Have you grown plants since you were little, or is it more of a recent passion? And this question really got me thinking because, I don't have this lovely story about growing sweet peas with my grandma or picking tomatoes from a young age. But I was outdoors quite a lot as a kid. And my best friend, who I grew up with from a very young age, who lived just down the road, Nick, we spent a lot of time outside and in his mum and dad's garden. So Georgie and Alan, his parents, had a really long sort of L-shaped garden, and at the top end of the garden it was kind of like our space, and we had our own sort of shed, sit on the shed in summer when it was nice and warm, go on bike rides. And I think my early childhood spent in that garden quite a lot has really probably quite influenced how much I didn't realise I need to have an outdoor space of my own. And we also had a pond. There was a tiny little pond in that little area, and I remember seeing newts for the first time in there, and frogs and all sorts of different wildlife. We used to camp out in the garden in summer, and it was just like a second home for me, really. It wasn't really until I graduated from university in 2012 and then I moved into a city centre flat that I really started to miss having an outdoor space, especially of my own. So the block of flats where I am, it's only a small little area, and we've got a communal sort of, I don't know what you call it, courtyard maybe. It's not very nice, it's very overlooked, and it's next to a very busy road. So it doesn't really feel like a garden. I began to feel very cooped up, especially in the middle of summer, and I just wanted some outdoor space where I could sit and relax. Not necessarily grow food at the time, I was just yearning for an outdoor place. But then I thought, what if I signed up to get an allotment? And I heard about St Anne's allotments. I heard about how sort of unique they are, and it's because they're so old, which is why I have all these hedges, why it's so private. And I really liked that, because most allotment sites are actually very open. They're on a very big sort of plain field usually, and they're all divided just by posts really. You don't have such thick hedges, privacy like I do. So I'm very grateful to have an allotment here. So I decided to get my name down on the waiting list, and it was in about 6 months that I actually got the call and said you're at the top of the list. So I was like, wow, okay, that didn't take too long. And I went on a little allotment tour. We went all around the site and we looked at about 5 or 6 different plots. In a small group, there was probably about 8 of us in this group. And I remember when I first saw this plot and I fell in love with it. It was very kind of secret garden in a way, because I saw that it had an apple tree, and I don't know, I just knew that it was the one. It sounds really cheesy, doesn't it? But you know, the way that it was enclosed, the land was fairly flat and even. I had a good view over to the city, and even though it needed a lot of work at the time, I decided to take this one. And somebody else wanted this one, I remember, and I was just like, no, please, can I have it? And you know, they decided, you know what, we'll have a different one. So I got this one. I got the one I wanted. And yeah, so I guess that might explain, you know, why I grow so many flowers, and I've tried to make it more of a space than just a productive place to grow fruit and veg. You know, I've got my seating area, I've got my shed, which is kind of homely, because this is a place where I spend my time to relax and unwind, and not just grow as much food as I can. Somebody asked, how long does it take to get to your allotment, and can you go there when you want? It's about a 5 to 10 minute drive. It's not very far, but Nottingham's a very hilly place, so if I did walk it, it would take quite a long time, and especially if I needed to carry anything there or back, it's not really going to happen. So yeah, it's about a 5-minute drive, so yeah, it's quite easy to get to. I spend most of my Saturdays here, and in summer I will come in here after work for a few hours. Next question. How is your job going? Do you still like it? Are you happy with the switch you made in careers? So it was September last year that I left my office job in marketing. I did a lot of digital marketing with a bit of photography, for a very small business, an online retailer. I'm still absolutely loving working as a gardener on a private estate. It can be very tiring, but the job satisfaction is just phenomenal, and I'm doing what I love. It doesn't really feel like a job, so I'm getting paid to do what I love, which is just great. I'm always learning, and I'm doing new things and different things each day, and you know, I get to work with the seasons and see all these seasonal shifts. And yeah, it can be tough some days when it's pelting it down with rain, or you know, we're coming up to the most coldest and challenging time of winter, and the estate is quite out in the middle of Derbyshire, so it does get very cold. But you know, you just layer up and you make the work keep you warm. I helped to design and create a double dahlia flower cutting border in the walled garden. That was a great little project, and we have flowers all summer for the main house, and that was a brilliant project. We grew so much produce to eat, and it's just been absolutely wonderful. Lots of normal sort of garden maintenance as well that I haven't really done here, but it's just been fantastic. So lots of lawn cutting and weeding and all that general kind of thing. So yeah, I'm loving it. Thank you for asking. Question from Julie Grove. She asks, how is your RHS course going and your job? I've answered that bit. I started my RHS practical level 2 course in September, and I'm enjoying it, although it is quite paper based. And well, I finished my practical level 2, and the RHS course is split into 3 sections. So there's the practical, the theory, and garden planning and design. I was hoping to do the garden planning and design this year, but it hasn't quite worked out with the hours, and you know, it's just been a bit complicated to sort of organise this year. So I might look at doing the theory next year, and I can always do that in my own time as an online course rather than having to go to the college. So it's on hold for the foreseeable, but hopefully from next September I'll be able to go back to my studies. It was just a little bit full on by the end of summer last year, and yeah, I just need a little break. So I've done my practical and passed that with flying colours. So the next step is to look at theory or the garden planning and design. I really did enjoy doing the level 2 practical, and you're right, it is quite paper based. You do have a lot of practical sort of assessments, but the theory paper side stuff is all about learning botanical names, and we were learning a new set about each week or every other week. So there's a lot to learn, and you've got to get the spellings right, and that can be quite challenging. I found it really fun, especially learning the weeds. Taraxacum officinale and you sound like a wizard when you're practicing them. I do miss it, but I'm definitely going back. Thank you for all your amazing videos and advice. Please could you let us know how the celeriac did in your Q&A. Thank you, Keith. We'll go out there and have a look. So these are my celeriac plants. I've got about 5 in here. I did sow them quite late, so they haven't grown very big. Ugh. Oh, that's quite a lot of soil there. Yeah, as you can see, they're not very big at all. It's about the size of a tennis ball. I haven't actually grown them before though, so I'm quite interested to see what it tastes like. If any of you have got some good sort of celeriac recipe suggestions, the easier the better. Please let me know, because I don't really know how to use celeriac. Top tips for the never-ending bindweed battle. Yeah, bindweed is a nightmare, especially if it's where you want to grow or where you already have things growing. You need to get the entire root out, every single inch, centimetre, millimetre. So you can't go pulling it or digging it, because it will snap and then it will create more pieces, which creates more plants, which makes it even more of a problem. So the best method really is just to smother it and not grow on it for a while, and then use something like cardboard to smother it with. And what you can then do is, after about 6 months, is pull it all back, and then all of the roots will be on the surface. They'll be really bright white where they've been trying to reach the sunlight, and just pull. It should be quite easy then to pull it all off, but just try not to dig it, because you just end up making a bit more of a problem if you've got a really bad problem with bindweed. Best of luck. If anybody else has got any suggestions, please just put them in the comments. Have you ever grown a crop that you won't eat again, and why? Yeah, so this year I kind of grew chickpeas, but when it got to the point of harvesting them, there wasn't really that many, and not enough to make any hummus. I grew them in Zoran's greenhouse, which is why you probably haven't seen them so much. Yeah, I think for the amount of time and effort that's involved in growing them, you might as well just buy a can. I'm sorry, I know it probably tastes so much better fresh, but for the amount of plants that you'd have to grow to warrant, you know, a big tub of hummus, which I eat like by the bucket load, it's not very cost or time effective. How many houseplants do I have? Well, I had a new count up this morning and I have 35. Yeah, it's become a bit of a new kind of obsession in the last 12 months. Most of them are philodendrons. Don't really do succulents or cacti very much. Maybe I'll give you a tour sometime. My houseplants keep me going in the evenings and throughout winter when I can't get to my allotment quite so much. How much money do you spend on your allotment? It varies, and I don't want to put a set price on it because that can put off people who want to get an allotment. Because you really don't need to spend that much. You know, the biggest investment that goes out each year is probably on compost, and I really wish that I could make enough of my own to use, but I don't, so I have to bring that in. But you know, the upfront costs were things like my shed, that was about £100 second hand. My polytunnel was about 120, and then it's just things like your seeds. I buy quite a lot of bulbs, but you know, you don't have to spend a lot. I try and buy things second hand because I think they've got more character, it's cheaper and it's more local. But you know, I can do seed swaps. You don't have to pay for seeds. They are quite cheap, so it's difficult. Probably on average each month, probably about £20 a month on average. I don't know, it might be more, it might be less. Sometimes I go on a bit of a shopping spree with spring bulbs or seeds, things like that. You know how it is. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea. Epic gardening, thank you Kevin. What's your favourite apple-based drink? Well, I drink cider, mostly in summer, but the favourite was probably the apple juice that I made with the apples from my tree. It was so sweet, so crisp, and once you chilled it for a few hours, oh my god, it was just the most refreshing drink I think I've ever had. Favourite gig or festival? Well, that might surprise some of you, but I went to Prodigy's Warriors Dance Festival a few years ago in Milton Keynes, and that was just insane. Oh, and now Keith's passed away. Rest in peace, Keith. So gutted when I heard the news about that. But yeah, the festival was headlined by the Prodigy, supported by Enter Shikari, Chasing Status, Pendulum, Zane Lowe was DJing. It was just such an epic festival. And the light shows that the Prodigy put on, oh, it was just crazy. Really enjoyed that festival. But I have been to Download as well, so that kind of gives you an idea of my music taste. On Instagram, Plot44B asked, top 5 tips for allotment owners. Now I'm assuming she means new allotment owners, so I've made a few notes on the tips that I would give. Number 1 is to see what you have already got growing, and this is really important, and it can be quite time of the year dependent because it's quite tricky once things have died back so much. But you're probably going to discover some things like strawberries. Everyone grows strawberries. Things like raspberries. You might have some fruit trees. Basically, don't go hacking all the ground back to start with a big clean slate because you don't know what you've already got there. And you might find some really good gems. Tip number 2, be slow and steady. Set yourself on like one bed at a time. And if you're going to dig it, then just take your time. Just say, right, today I'm just going to focus on this section here. And then you'll do it and you'll feel like you really achieved something. If you're trying to look at the bigger picture constantly, you'll get overwhelmed and it's really easy to feel defeated and give up. So just set yourself on small sections at a time and then work your way around. Tip number 3, get to know your neighbours because they can be your lifeline. They'll keep an eye on your plot for you. They will be able to tell you what grows well, what doesn't grow well, what sort of varieties to try. They might give you a load of free stuff like tools and things that really give you a good head start when you've just arrived. And they're going to be your friends. They're going to be part of the community that you're going to get to know and be a part of. Number 4, consider going no dig. And this is just kind of like sweeping across the nation and the world right now. It's much easier. I mean, you'll still need to get the brambles out. A lot of people are finding that the best method now. And I wish that I did when I started. And tip number 5 is to take pictures along the way. Make an Instagram page, make a blog, you know, start a Twitter, whatever you want. Just have some kind of reference of your journey and you can share it in the Instagram community and be part of the online gardening community. And then we can all support and love each other. What is the best thing that I've learnt this year? I can grow main crop potatoes in containers and really well. That really surprised me. They were really, really big. I've still got loads now just by my feet in tubs, which I need to take home. But yeah, I mean, that worked great. I didn't have to dig them out. I didn't get any pest damage, and they taste amazing. So I'm definitely gonna do that again. How do you keep your pretty clothes clean when gardening? I always get mud everywhere. Well, it might surprise you, but I do get mud everywhere, and usually on my face and my hands. I guess I don't know, I don't really get my clothes that dirty. If I know I'm going to be doing some heavy, big kind of work, then I will wear scruffy clothes. But otherwise, I like to wear what I'm comfortable in, which tends to be these kind of like dungaree dresses, dungarees or shorts in summer. I don't know. I wear wellies, so my legs don't get that dirty. I don't kneel on the ground. I tend to squat, and I don't know, I guess I don't dig the soil, so I'm not flicking it around so much. So maybe that's how I tend to stay kind of clean. The Essex allotment. Hey Alex, thank you for your question. He asks, what's the one crop or variety that you're looking forward to growing most next year? And I had to write down these few varieties. But I've bought a few seeds already, and some of them are from real seeds. And I've got some squash varieties that I'm looking forward to, and one's called white acorn squash. It's a much earlier than normal. It's kind of like a white acorn shape, producing lots of squash even in short UK summers. So that's going to be good, because this year our summer wasn't very long at all. Didn't really feel like we got one. So if next year is going to be similar, it should still perform quite well. And also sable squash, which is a blue pear-shaped squash. It looks really cool, good for roasting, stores really well. And as for chilies, I'm probably going to grow a lot more different chilies again. Particularly, I think there's one called the fish chili, and it's like a striped variegated chili with variegated foliage as well, so it's going to look awesome as well as taste pretty good. And there's also the biquino, I think I'm pronouncing that right, which is a bit like the Riquito peppers you get from Pizza Express. So they're red and kind of mild, and they're good for pickling, which is what I want to do more of next year. Millie Proust on Instagram, thank you for your question. She asks, how are you finding the work-life gardening balance now that you're a pro gardener? I wouldn't call myself a pro. Well, I guess the biggest difference is my energy levels. In the middle of summer, when things are really full on, we're only a really tiny team and it's quite a big estate, so it is hard work, and there's a lot of it. So my energy levels, once I've finished work, are just kind of slumped. So I'm not going to be coming to the allotment and thinking, oh, I'm going to get all of these jobs done today and I'm going to rush around and do this and that and this and that, because that's not why I'm here. I'm here to relax and enjoy it. So my work gardening is what it is, and when I come here, it's still my time to relax. So I guess that's made me prioritize my jobs here more, because you know, I need to work with myself, not overwork myself. But I'm a lot faster at weeding, and I suppose it's made me think about my style and how I've been inspired by where I work as well. Whereas it's quite formal gardens over there. I appreciate formal design, but that's not really me. Although I have bought this, probably based on, you know, where I work. We've got a lot of box hedging and topiary. Also, I think my boss's style and interest has reflected on me. So the water tank that I bought recently, we've got quite a lot of those at work, and she loves her antiques and that kind of thing. So I do find myself on Facebook Marketplace a lot more, looking for niche kind of things like that. So yeah, I guess my type of gardening here is much more relaxed and slow paced, so I can enjoy it. I've prioritised my jobs a lot more, and I've become more realistic on what jobs I can get done whilst I'm here. So not writing huge lists like I used to, but just thinking about 1 or 2, maybe 3 things that I can get done in that time and enjoy it. I remember when I was thinking about changing my job, you know, last year, And somebody said to me, oh, you won't like it. If you're working as a gardener, you're not going to like gardening anymore. It's going to suck the life out of it and you're not going to enjoy it anymore. They were wrong. I still love it. You know, nothing's going to take my passion away. I'm still excited to be learning all the time. So yeah, he was wrong. Rita asked, how's Zoran's plot doing? Any new plans? Well, I haven't really seen him that much this year. And to be honest, when I discovered how riddled the ground was with that creeping thistle, I realised I'd bitten off more than I could chew. And I made use of the bean frame, and his greenhouse for all of my chilies. That was really useful. But the ground is just too much. We dug some of them out, but really that ground just needs smothering for a year to try and kill them off, and the roots then just lifting out. I don't know, I'm not gonna sort of tackle the ground. That's not in my interest, but if I'm able to use the greenhouse again next year, then I will. What's your favourite non-gardening related hobby? I love photography. I love going for long walks in the woods and discovering new places, going to the Peak District with my boyfriend, and tending to my houseplants and making things, whether it's jewellery or decorations using dried materials. I made this really cool sort of flower bauble this year with straw flowers. The Crafty Gardener. Christmas pudding, yes or no? Well, I'm sorry. When it comes to Christmas pudding, Christmas cake, mince pies, I'm a bit of a Scrooge. I don't like fruit cakes. Sorry. What do you want for Christmas? There's a few things that I'd love, but they're a bit over budget. But one of the things I would really like is the soil blocker. Don't know if you've heard of them. It's a way of growing your seeds into little seedlings without using plastic pots. And it's a little machine that makes blocks of soil basically, and it keeps them nice and compact so that you can grow your seedlings in them. So I'd love to be able to try that to reduce my plastic consumption. Yeah, it just sounds like a really nifty little product. Other things that I'd love, well, I haven't asked for them, but I'd love a Kelly kettle, some Nowaki snips, or some Lucy and Yak dungarees or overalls. That'd be nice. Are you gifting any plant-based presents? Yes, I'm a secret planter for this Facebook group where we swap cuttings and plants and things. So this year we're doing it's like Secret Santa but with plants. So I've got one random person to send a load of things to, and I'm sending that tomorrow, so I really hope they like it. Favourite Christmas food? It's got to be pigs in blankets, hasn't it? But if I'm talking vegetables, parsnips. Honey roasted parsnips are the best. This next question I get asked an awful lot. It's not related to gardening at all. It's about my hair. I'm not some beauty tutorial person. I don't know much about hair and makeup, but I get so many questions about my hair care. What's your hair care routine? How do you look after your hair? Honestly, I'm pretty lazy, and that's how it's grown so long. And somebody asked, how long has it taken to grow your hair this long? And basically when I was at university about 10 years ago, I had really super short hair, bit of a pixie cut, and then over the years, by the time I graduated, I stopped cutting it, and it's grown this long. So about 7 or 8 years to grow about a metre. I mean, I haven't measured it, but it comes past my hips. My routine, so weird I'm talking about this. I try not to wash it. I wash it at maximum twice a week. I don't brush it too much. I tie it back when I think it's going to get knotted. So that's most of the time when I'm gardening or sleeping. I usually have it in a loose plait. I condition it. This is so weird. And I try and buy that Aussie stuff when I can afford it, because it is really good. I don't use any heat on it. I never straighten it or curl it. If I want to have curls, I plait it or just do it that way. If it's looking particularly dry, I do use some miracle oil on it just to give it a bit of moisture, especially in the cold. When I'm working outside quite a lot, it does dry out quite a bit. But that's about it really. I don't do anything special. I don't use hair masks. You know, I even cut it myself when I decide to. That's it. Try not to use too many products. don't use heat, condition it, and just try not to get it too knotted, because that is my main problem. Toby asks, what is my least favourite plant? And I had a really good think about this, and I'm trying to think, you know, a lot of people hate ivy and a lot of people hate begonias, and I mean, I don't really like begonias, the bedding plants. They're kind of ugly. I mean, they've got their place on roundabouts and in parks and stuff. In terms of my allotment, I guess bindweed is awful because it's now getting into my strawberry patch and I keep trying to pull bits out. But it does look pretty in hedges where it's allowed to sort of, you know, go rampant. So it has its place, just not on my allotment. And also feverfew. That is the herb that's meant to be good for migraines. And I grew it over in my wildlife corner. Turns out the wildlife aren't really that bothered about it. It stinks and it self-seeds everywhere. It looks quite pretty, but there are other daisy-like flowers that you can get. Don't particularly hate it, but it's just been one of the plants that I've eradicated this year. Would I ever write a book? I get asked that a few times too. Never say never. Would be fun to do, but I've got no idea where you even start with that. What tunes do you listen to when you garden? Well, this might surprise some of you, but I don't. If I'm on my allotment, I don't have any music at all. I like to listen to the bird song. That's part of why I'm here, to connect with nature, to relax. But if I'm at work, I do tend to listen to podcasts. Most of them are garden related, so maybe I could do a video on that sometime if you're interested, or a blog post or something. But yeah, I don't really listen to the music that much when I'm gardening. Which actress would, let me read the question. Which actress would play you in a movie of your life? Good question. Sigourney Weaver. She's badass in Alien, and I dressed up as her for Halloween one year, which was so fun. Yeah, let's go for Sigourney Weaver. What was my favourite album of the year? I had to think about this one too, because I've got quite a wide music taste, and Slipknot had a new album out this year. Yeah, shock horror. I like rock and metal mostly. I do like a lot of softer stuff too, but yeah, it's mostly rock. Yeah, Slipknot had a new album out this year, but I wouldn't say it was my favourite. Tool made their first new album for like almost a decade, and that's amazing, but each song is like 15 minutes long. That's a great album. But number one would have to be a band that I've only just discovered this year and I saw last month, and they're called Youre, and they're awesome, and their album is called Don't Wait Till Tomorrow. Check it out. Really good band. Alright, we're going on for some time now, so I'm going to quick fire around these. What are your favourite Christmas traditions or new ones that you have started? Old traditions: drinking Bucks Fizz for breakfast and watching Muppets Christmas Carol. New traditions include making natural decorations such as wreaths and my little orange segments. I've made those this year. Last year I did chilies that I tried, and I've also made my flower bauble with straw flowers. Best plants to take cuttings from. You got pelargoniums, salvia, rosemary, but I take most of my cuttings from houseplants, particularly philodendrons like pothos, the monsteras. They're really good to take cuttings from, or jade plants. You know, succulents are so easy if you've got some. But this time of year you can take cuttings from hardwood shrubs, so you can take cuttings from roses, from currants, and from dogwood, that kind of thing. Do I have a favourite dog? Not many people know this, but I do follow a few Twitter dog personalities. There's a dog called Chuck, and he is a little Welsh Terrier, and there's another one called Archie. I really like dogs with beards, so Airedales are another one that I'd really love. I don't have a dog. I'd love one, but I don't have the space all the time. Yeah, they're my favourite breeds. Good dog with a beard. Richard asks, what is your favourite all-time book? I have to admit, I'm not much of a book person. I don't really sit down and read a book as much as most people probably would. So I have to go back to the classic. It's a bit of a cliche. You probably know what's coming, but it's The Secret Garden. And I actually watched the film first growing up, and then I went to the book. But it's just such a beautiful book, and I think it's got some really nice morals about kindness, caring and nurturing, about being patient and appreciating things. And it's had a big influence on me and my allotment, so that's my favourite book. What's my favourite music to listen to? I've got a very wide music taste, from metal, grunge. I grew up listening to a lot of ska, like rock music. I was obsessed with Nirvana. Korn are one of my favourite bands, but I'd also listen to Florence and the Machine. You know, I've got quite a wide taste, but it's mostly rock. This stocking, by the way, is as old as me. It's 30 years old. It was made by my grandma. It's getting a bit old and tatty now, and the teddy bear could do with some new little paws and then pads on him, but this brings me so much nostalgia. And that brings us to the end of the Q&A. Thank you so much for all your questions. As we come to the end of the year, I just want to thank you for all your support again. I've just hit 15,000 subscribers now, which is crazy, because it only feels like last month that I was celebrating 10,000. So thank you all so much. I'd love to know, going into 2020, what sort of content you'd like to see, because I want to mix it up a bit more. So just let me know what you want to see. Any feedback as usual. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you all have a fantastic Christmas, and I'll see you in 2020. Merry Christmas!